Erik Halterman of RotoWire here with 6 players to pick up, starting with Brandon Lowe, second baseman for the Rays. He's available in way too many shallow leagues. He's probably picked up in your deeper leagues, but he's really the ideal shallow league player. And that's because he misses way too much time to be reliable in those deeper leagues. Only once in Lowe's career has he even reached 450 plate appearances. He produces around the injuries, and he just returned from an oblique strain in late May. He was in a slump to start things off, 2 hits in his first 7 games, but now over his last 7, an 1194 OPS. So this is what Brandon Lowe looks like when he's healthy and in a rhythm. For his career, per 600 plate appearances, which again, he never reaches 600 plate appearances, but if he did, he'd average 31 homers, 83 runs, 91 RBI while hitting a decent 244. Heliot Ramos, outfielder for the Giants, who kept his place when the Giants outfield got healthier. It was Luis Matos, who was optioned instead. While Matos is an elite contact hitter, Ramos does everything but make contact. He's striking out 31.5% of the time this year, but he does enough to make up for it. 5 homers in 108 plate appearances. That would put him on pace for 28 over 600 plate appearances in a full season. He's hitting 304, 407, 511. He's showing lots of patience, walking just shy of 14% of the time, and he's showing tons of power with a 15.5% barrel rate and a 57% hard hit rate. Contact is a question for Ramos, but if he keeps hitting the ball this hard, he will make good on the prospect pedigree that once had him peaking as a top 20 prospect here at RotoWire before a difficult start to his MLB career. Still just 24, this is the Ramos who was promised, so go add him now. Up next, we've got Henry Davis, who you probably don't need to look at in your 1-catcher leagues, but he's going to get some big bids this weekend in 2-catcher leagues. Davis had a very poor start to the season and was sent down in late April after managing at 497 OPS in his first 22 games, but he crushed it in the minors. In 23 games, had a 1078 OPS with 7 homers. Davis also now has catcher eligibility, which he didn't have during draft season. You would have had to draft him as a DH and wait till he picked it up. So now that he is a catcher, and now that he is coming off some excellent performance in the minors, he's worth adding just to figure out if the first overall pick in the 2021 draft, let's see if he can carry that over into the big league. On the mound, Max Meyer of the Marlins, who's supposed to return soon. Meyer was one of the best pitching prospects in baseball before undergoing Tommy John surgery in August of 2022 after making just 2 MLB starts. He was supposed to show up maybe around this time this season, but he surprisingly made the Marlins opening day rotation due to injuries elsewhere. He had 3 really good starts, 2.12 ERA, 0.82 whip, but the team sent him down anyway to reduce his workload, and he didn't look great in his first few starts in the minors, but over his last 3, he's got 17 strikeouts against just 4 walks in 11 innings pitched. When he does return, his workload is going to be a little bit sketchy. We might get a bunch of 4 to 5 inning starts, which isn't ideal, but Meyer is a talented enough pitcher. Again, he was one of the top pitching prospects in baseball before his injuries, and if you can stash him now and get a pitcher with that talent over the final 3+ months of the season, I think you'll be quite happy. On the same team, Ryan Weathers has been rather interesting for the Marlins this season. He has long since been picked up in most deeper leagues, but in the shallower leagues, the interest level is picking up, and I back that. I think the interest in Weathers should pick up after his recent run. He did give up 4 earned runs in his last start, but had 11 strikeouts in that game, which now gives him 30 strikeouts against just 4 walks across his last 4 starts. Got a 1.67 ERA over that stretch. Those strikeouts mean Weathers now has a 22% strikeout rate on the season, which is basically league average, to go along with a 7% walk rate and 52% ground ball rate, both of which are slightly better than league average. That whole picture should add up to a very reliable, productive back-end starter, at least. It's a great park, too, for Ryan Weathers, although we do have to admit, not a great situation for wins on the Marlins, but should be enough overall to make Weathers interesting in shallower formats. For the bullpen, let's go to Yimmy Garcia of the Blue Jays, who should be at least the temporary closer in Toronto with Jordan Romano dealing with elbow issues yet again. And it's worth bidding more on Garcia than it would be for most temporary closers because, again, this is the second instance of elbow troubles for Romano this season, which means we're more worried than we'd already be for elbow troubles with a pitcher. Also, Romano wasn't even pitching well before he hit the IL. Garcia looks like the Blue Jays' best reliever, so maybe there's an outside chance he keeps the job. Of course, there's a real chance he doesn't even get every save while Romano is gone. The team could still use more of a committee, but Garcia should definitely be the leader of that committee. He's got a 35% strikeout rate, a 7% walk rate, and a 2.16 ERA on the season. A 2.41 SIERA says he basically deserves that success as well. There's some risk here, I suppose, that the Jays fall out of contention and deal Garcia to a contender, where he's likely to be nothing more than a setup man, but that'll happen right around the time when Romano might be coming back anyway. You should get up to 2 months of Garcia potentially as a closer here, and even if Romano comes back and is healthy, Garcia could still be a usable setup guy.